Now, this is one phone that's been getting a lot of hype. I'm talking about the Galaxy S24 FE, which has been going for around 35k, which is like a massive 25,000 rupee discount from the original price of 60k last year. And even at this price, there are doubts. What about Exynos? What about heating? What about battery life? What about the cameras? What about the competition? Look, I saw these comments, yeah, love you guys, and I ordered the phone and we tested this phone extensively for a month or so to find out if the S24 FE makes sense in 2025 at around 35k, who should absolutely buy it and who should just run in the opposite direction. Hit that subscribe button because the big sale season is coming and we're going to bring some really handy videos, and hit that bell icon in time to find out if the S24 FE is worth it. Baby, I'm worth it. First off, the moment you pick up this phone, it does feel like you're holding a flagship. It's got the S-series DNA, the camera rings, the metal frame with flat sides, glass back and stuff. Very premium for 35k, but remember, this is a big boy, just like me. I mean, it's wider than the OnePlus 13R and fairly hefty at 213 grams, but the weight is balanced well. Edges are slightly curved at the back, so it doesn't dig into your palm, and I had no issues using it for long hours. But again, this was without a case, and adding a case will add more weight to it. And yes, both the front and the back are Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, which is awesome because most phones in this price use the budget Gorilla Glass 7i. Plus, it has IP68, yes, no 69 sadly, but 68 is flagship grade, and honestly, this could very well be one of the best built phones in this price segment. But there's one thing that bothered me when I first unboxed the phone and still kind of bothers me. Yeah, these bezels. I mean, just look at them. It kind of takes you back a few years and looks kind of old school, especially next to some of the newer phones under 40k. And due to the same thicker bezels, this has a slightly smaller 6.7-inch screen for a phone its size. But the display itself is really good. AMOLED, 120Hz, HDR10+, hits 1900 nits of peak brightness. But yeah, only full HD+. Having said that, credit where it's due, this looks nice and gets bright enough. But yes, it's not as sharp as some of the 1.5k screens out there. Also, it's LTPS, not LTPO like the OnePlus 13R, so it can't drop refresh rate to 1 Hz to save battery. Yeah, don't worry, I'm getting to the battery debate. Have some patience. But Samsung hasn't mentioned anything about PWM dimming, so if you use your phone in the dark a lot, which you probably do, something to keep in mind. But hey, this is a Samsung AMOLED after all, so there's vibrant colors, deep blacks, really nice to watch stuff on. In fact, I watched a lot of YouTube and Netflix on it, both of which, by the way, support HDR. Even the stereo speakers are pretty loud and balanced. There's some bass, vocals are good, no complaints there. Now, the haptics are kind of above average. They're accurate, not as clicky as flagships or even say the OnePlus 13R, but they feel just right in day-to-day use. And I'm happy, you get the idea. But you know what, let's get real. What colors does the phone come in? I'm kidding. What about Exynos? So this has Exynos 2400E, which is basically a downclocked version of Exynos 2400 we've seen on the S24 and S24 Plus. And just to mention, this only has 8GB of RAM no matter what variant you buy, and base model gets 128GB UFS 3.1 storage, which is a little sad. Anyway, in benchmarks, it scores around 1.3 million in Antutu, lower than 8 Gen 3 on the OnePlus 13R, also lower than the 8s Gen 4 on the iQOO Neo 10. In fact, this is more like the Note 5 or Reno 14, so it kind of sits in the middle. And honestly, the phone itself runs like a flagship in day-to-day use, whether you're using multiple apps and multitasking, social media calls, and this just feels very smooth to use. I did not notice any heating in general use as such, just a tiny bit warmer when I'm in a hot environment. But it's when you throw in some intensive games or intensive benchmarks, that's when you see some drop in performance. See, I ran the 3D Mark test and the stability is 62%, which I'd say is kind of okayish. Even the CPU throttling test, the phone does fairly well when compared to the competition. It's not all bad. And even in real use, when I use the camera under the sun outdoors or played heavy games, it would get a bit hot. But it's not all bad because this supports 120 FPS in BGMI, and we got like 107 FPS on average for 30 minutes of gameplay and about 86 FPS in COD Battle Royale. So yeah, if you played these, you would be fine. So the performance is not all bad, but it's when you do really intensive heavy gaming, that's when you feel the performance is not so good. And we tried playing Wuthering Waves on this, and you know how intensive it gets, and it was choppy. We even reduced the graphics to medium, and even then we could see some frame drops. Since the performance is pretty decent, but overall this phone is not for heavy gaming at all, period. Now software-wise, this came with One UI 6 and it got the One UI 7 update, and honestly, it's one of my favorite Android skins out there. I mean, pretty smooth animations, looks and feels very premium, lots of features, and you can even use good lock modules to customize it however you want. There's also all the Galaxy AI features, ambient wallpapers, the now bar, even call recording without warning. And yeah, this came with a promise of 7 years of OS updates and security patches, so there's still 6 years of updates left, which is still better than most phones under 20k, 30k. Now another big question, is the S24 FE the best camera phone under 40k? So this has a 50 megapixel primary camera with OIS, an 8 megapixel 3x telephoto again with OIS, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. Selfie is 10 megapixels, so nothing crazy on paper, but I'd say it clicks very good photos. I mean, the colors, the dynamic range is very similar to how we have seen on Samsung flagships out there. And we compared it to the Reno 14 and the OnePlus 13R. And in daylight, Reno clicks the best detail and dynamic range. Samsung clicks good detail too, and mostly natural colors, but struggles a bit on shadows, while OnePlus clicks very boosted and high contrast pictures, which I'm not a big fan of. Now in low light, it's the 13R surprisingly clicking the best photos with the most details, again followed by Samsung, which has good detail and very accurate colors but a little noisy at times. And then there's the Reno 14, which looks cleaner but a bit softer in terms of detail. Now in terms of portraits, the S24 FE has again the most natural skin tones, accurate shirt color, but looks a little soft when you zoom in. Reno has the best detail, but it does tweak the skin tone depending upon the situation, while OnePlus has good detail but that contrasty pop, which some may like, some may not. When it comes to zoom, OnePlus only has 2x telephoto, so the real fight is between the S24 FE with 3x and the Reno 14 with 3.5x zoom, and Samsung gives you the nicer colors while Reno wins on detail almost every single time. In ultra-wide, however, it's Samsung that captures the most details among the three phones, and when it comes to selfies, all three do a good job at good light, with Samsung looking very natural, OnePlus having warm tones, Reno somewhere in the middle, but as the light goes down, the S24 FE starts to kind of lag behind. Look, overall, I felt like the S24 FE was very balanced and consistent with the photos it took, and the only time I'd want something else is when I'm clicking portraits or selfies. But then again, it's not a big difference, and overall I'd say these are pretty good balanced cameras for the price, especially because these also shoot really good videos. I mean, the main camera here can do 4K 60 or even 8K at 30 FPS because we all have 8K TVs, and video quality is very good, very stable, good colors and sharpness all around. And yeah, you can record selfie videos at 4K 62, but yeah, if you want to switch between all lenses, you have to stick at 4K 30 FPS because the ultra wide and telephoto support this at max. Now another big question, yeah, there's so many big questions, is the battery, and the battery life on this phone is practically very meh. I mean, it's well over 200 grams, but it's only 4700 mAh battery, and we've used this phone for pretty long, and we've got like 5.5 hours of screen time on the best of days, and this was using lots of YouTube, Netflix, Instagram, other casual stuff. So yeah, this is kind of like a one-day phone, and you'll have to charge it by evening or night depending on how you use it, and this just shows that Chinese phones with the silicon carbon batteries are just way ahead in terms of battery life. Come on, Samsung, just bring that silicon carbon shiz, come on. And that only kind of gets worse when you plug in the phone and notice it only supports 25 watt fast charging, and that takes like 1 hour 20 minutes to fully charge the phone. And yeah, you don't get a charger in the box. The one good thing here is the S24 FE supports 15 watt wireless charging along with reverse wireless charging, which is something you don't see anywhere except in, say, motor phones. Now Samsung thankfully hasn't cut any corners in terms of connectivity. I mean, you get Bluetooth 5.3, 6 GHz, Wi-Fi support, NFC, so you can use Samsung Tap to Pay, which is very underrated feature. You also get a USB 3 port for fast file transfers. Oh, and there's Samsung DeX too, so pretty much everything's covered. But yeah, one thing to note, we did notice this switching between 4G and 5G a bit more than we expected, especially on Airtel, not on Jio. And yeah, this wasn't a problem for us because we were mostly testing it in the city, but yeah, this might lead to slower internet when traveling. Apart from that, the calls were all fine, no problems there, just that this has a virtual proximity sensor instead of a real one. Not that it caused any issues, but something you should know. Oh, so here's the bottom line. The Galaxy S24 FE at around 35k does not have the best processor, does not have the best display, does not have the best battery. So what exactly do you get? Well, you get a phone that feels premium and reliable, has some of the best software with long-term support, not the best, but very consistent and capable cameras, plus some quality of life stuff like wireless charging, Samsung Tap to Pay, USB 3 port, and Samsung strong after-sales support, and all of that does make a difference in daily life. So if you're looking for a good balanced phone around 35k, I'd say this is a good Samsung option. I'd give it a green signal unless you're a gamer. In which case, I'd lean towards the OnePlus 13R or even something like the iQOO Neo 10, both of which also have better battery life. But if a Samsung phone is all you want, you can also check out the Galaxy S24, which will cost 7-8K more, but you get even better cameras, slightly better performance, and LTPO display, and it's a more compact phone if that's something you prefer. And before you go, I know some of you might be thinking of the S25 FE, which will launch soon, but it'll probably cost the same as the S24 FE at launch, around 60K, so I'll keep it out of the equation right now. But hey, that's just my take. I know a lot of you guys are using the Galaxy S24 FE, so comment down below your experience, how's it been like, and yeah, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one.